Planescape is finally in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We haven't seen Planescape for like more than 10 years. Out of all the games, including video games, I've been looking forward to this book the most. Anyways, welcome to Pack Tactics. Updated my journal. 2 backgrounds were added, Gate Warden and Planar Philosopher. Both backgrounds get some Planescape related features, but also a free feat, namely Scion of the Outer Planes. The feat itself opens up your ability to pick other feats that have a prerequisite. The only prerequisite this has is that you have to be playing in a Planescape campaign, but your DM might say otherwise. Scion of the Outer Planes allows you to choose from 5 types of planes listed in the provided table. The options are chaotic, evil, good, lawful, or the outlands. All of them give you 1 type of damage resistance and the ability to cast a cantrip. You get to decide between intelligence, wisdom, or charisma for your spellcasting ability for this cantrip. Here you can see the resistances and the cantrips they provide. If you don't care about the other options, which are for the most part decided by the type of plane you choose, you would mainly base your decision off the damage type resistance here. Cantrips are really not a big deal. Usually these kinds of decisions include a trade-off whether you want to choose a commonly occurred damage type, but can be resisted through something like absorb elements, or you pick a not so commonly occurring damage type that cannot be resisted through absorb elements. I say this because most elemental damage is common, like fire is the most common, whereas other damage types aren't. Of course, this doesn't necessarily hold here because none of the options are elemental here. But I did a really quick check and I found out that Bigby's, Fizzbans, and Mordenkainen's, around 25% of the enemies deal force damage. But Kobold, what about this book? There's monsters in it! Gator, don't be silly, that would be a spoiler. But anyways, it's safe to assume it's force. I mean, those books that I just named, those are fairly new books. Anyways, the one feat that doesn't require you to choose a specific plane type is Planar Wanderer. This gives you 3 features. Planar Adaptation, which allows you to choose either acid, cold, or fire damage resistance. You can change the resistances daily, by the way. Portal Cracker, which allows you to open or close portals with a DC 20 Intelligence Arcana check. And finally, Portal Sense, which allows you to sense the direction to the last planar portal you used on the same plane, as well as detecting portals within 30 feet of you that aren't behind total cover. This is basically the same as the one in the UA. And if you know a little bit about Planescape lore, then you would know, oh, this is useful, especially in Sigil. But the thing is, if the DM really wants you to find a specific portal to progress the story, you're gonna find that portal without this feat. Besides the resistances, I can't think of many ways to make this useful. The only thing I can think of is like closing a portal that leads to basically hell. But a DC 20 Arcana check is quite high. You would think by picking this, the DC would be lower, like 10, because you're used to portals. But I guess that's not how it's done. I quickly looked through the portal rules in this book. There's not really much besides how to open them, and that involves these portal keys, and that could be anything really. Like in Planescape Torment, there's this guy who needs a specific fork. And if you give him the fork, he will raise the fork up high above his head and run into a bookshelf, and that will teleport him home. I think that's how the quest went. I can't remember. It's been many, many years since I played that game. That is an example of a portal needing a key. With this feat, you don't need a key. You can actually just force it open. Or you can close it. Like, if there's a portal that just doesn't close, you can close it. You can't do that if you don't have the feat. That's the benefit of this feat. This feat is pretty good for this kind of setting, but it's a 4th level prerequisite for some odd reason. This should be a background feat or a 1st level feat. By the way, I forgot to say that all the feats I'm going to cover from now on, they require you to be 4th level to pick. You know what doesn't require 4th level to pick? Describe, where you can get professionally written box descriptions of basically everything. Over 10,000 scenes. This is the perfect tool to make your world feel alive with fantastic descriptions written by professional writers. Need to describe an old tavern that's bustling with drunks? All you have to do is look up tavern, pick a description you like, and take some sentences you like. Flavor in your own flair, and boom, you sound like a professional. Then when a tavern fight bursts out suddenly, just pull out the next description box. It's very easy to chain a ton of descriptions together. It might even give you ideas for future adventures. On top of that, some of these descriptions have ambient sounds or even music attached to them to enhance immersion, and all of this is film quality sounds. The catalog there is also massive, and I'll be playing some of it now. They've also got interactive maps, let's not forget about that. We love maps. Describe is massive, and their catalog keeps growing, which means your catalog also grows as well. I highly recommend you check them out, and if you do, please press the link in the description. And if you like what you see, use the code PACKTACTICS for a 10% off your first subscription payment. Back to the video. Next, Cohort of Chaos, a half feat, with the Chaotic Outer Planes as a requirement. This gives chaotic flair. When you roll a 1 or a 20 on an attack roll or saving throw, the magic of chaos flows through you. Roll a d4 and consult the chaotic flare table to determine what happens. A flare lasts until the end of your next turn, and a new flare can't occur until after the first flare ends. In the UA version, I complained about how if you want this to be a random effect, you should at least make it good on average. That makes sense, right? Because you're investing into a feat, and feats are really important. Well, for some odd reason, they decided to make Disrupt Field hurt yourself. The UA version says every creature other than you that starts its turn. Now it says every creature that starts its turn. Like, come on. So we have one that literally inflicts damage on yourself, Wailing Winds, which just seems to be actively detrimental to your party, Unbound with a sort of cool teleport, and the Battle Fury, which is a decent damage boost. This feat is garbage. Why is there a 50% chance to get a harmful effect? This is a level 4 prerequisite. Next, Baneful Scion, another half feat, with the Evil Outer Plane as a requirement. This gives you Grasp of Avarice. Once per turn, when you deal damage to a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself, you can also deal necrotic damage to it. The necrotic damage equals 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus, and you regain a number of hit points equal to this necrotic damage dealt. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Per usage, this ranges between an average of 5.5 and 9.5 extra damage and healing to yourself. And also the uses, of course, also increase from 2 to 6. The problem is you need to take a lot of turns to make this actually good, because while the total average of 57 at level 17 doesn't seem bad, it takes 6 rounds to get there. And there will be rare cases where this actually matters. I think this feat sucks. Next, Righteous Heritor, half feat, with good outer plane as a requirement. This gives you Soothe Plane. When you or a creature within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to reduce that damage by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You could make a connection between this and Baneful Scion. That feat just heals yourself, whereas this works with other people too. The problem is that the damage reduction will only be meaningful if it makes the difference between going down and not going down. That is a very small window of opportunity. I really don't think this is useful enough to be considered picking up. The last of the alignment type of feats is Agent of Order. It's another half feat with Lawful Outer Plane as a requirement. This gives you Stasis Strike. Once per turn, when you damage a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself, you can deal an extra 1d8 force damage to the target. And it must make a wisdom saving throw as spectral bindings try to ensnare it. On a successful save, the target escapes. On a failed save, the target has the restrained condition until the start of your next turn. These bindings manifest as chains or some other symbol of status. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Restraining an enemy is not bad, however, you can only do this 2 to 6 times a day. The save itself isn't bad, but it's still single target. I don't think this feat is very good. Last feat, Outland's Envoy. Half feat and requires Outland's type. You get Crossroad Emissary. You learn Misty Step and Tongues spell. You can cast each spell once using this feature without a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast that spell in this way again. When you cast Tongues using this feat, you require no material components. You can also cast these spells using spell slots you have of the appropriate level. The spell's spellcasting ability is the one chosen when you gain the Scion of the Outer Planes feat. I would just pick Fate Touch instead because you get a lot of good options like Bless, Command, Dissonant Whispers, Gift of Alacrity, Sleep. I think that's about it. I'm sorry, Misty Step with Tongues is not worth a feat. Conclusion, the only feat I would pick here is the one I get for free. And depending on the DM, if the DM is really into portals, then I would pick Planar Wanderer. But I would only pick it as a wizard or something. But to be fair to the book, this is not a player book. This is a DM book. You're buying this for the Planescape setting. We haven't seen Planescape for a long time. But Kobold! What can change the nature of a man? Gator, we're so old that people are probably not gonna get that meme. I was 4 years old when that game came out, by the way. Did you play it? Not the original, I played the enhanced edition, which I recommend, by the way. That game is more of a novel, to be honest. Like, I don't think the gameplay's very good. So if you enjoy reading, and especially reading about philosophy, by the way, oh my god, then this is perfect. This is the perfect game for you. This game really got me into Planescape. This is a better DM supplement than this book. I highly recommend it, even though it's ancient. Anyways, end of video. If you liked this video, I hope to earn your subscription. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.